It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hey friends, this is Andy. I want you to meet Dario Priolo. He's the CMO and demand generation practice leader at Sales Performance International.
We sell high-value solutions with a long sales cycle, and there are many influencers involved.
His team wanted to drive more revenue from their target accounts, but they needed a breakthrough.
Well, we really had to look at dozens and dozens of providers. And when we did that, when we did our research, we ultimately decided that Engagio was right for us.
Engagio's account-based marketing and sales platform enables teams to measure account engagement and orchestrate human connections at scale.
Opportunities in our target accounts are up 25%, and pipeline is up 30%. It's made them a lot more productive. They really now have a platform that allows multi-channel, multiplayer outreach to manage these complex relations in very large accounts. Marketing now has outstanding visibility into the most engaged accounts, and they really know where to focus their efforts much better.
Head over to engagio.com/accelerate to download their clear and complete guide to account-based sales development today. That's engagio.com/accelerate. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. Joining me on the show today is Braydan Young. Braydan is the CEO, co-founder of Coffee Sender, a rewards and incentives platform. It's based on the idea of increase engagement with your prospects through the really deceptively simple act of sending them a cup of coffee. So Braydan, welcome to Accelerate.
Thank you. Yeah, excited to be here. Excited to hopefully you have a cup of coffee in front of you.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, I have to admit, I'm not really much of a coffee drinker. I mean, I know. I got through college and never got in the habit, and now I just I'm one of those people who doesn't like the taste of it. So, but I do drink it on occasion. So
on those late nights or very early mornings, I would say I'm the exact opposite. I would say I have way too much throughout the day.
Yeah, well, mine sort of relegated to we live in Manhattan, and we like to go to shows, and sort of reached the point in life where when I go to a show, it's like I start falling asleep almost instantly. So my wife forces me to drink coffee before we go see a show. And that way I think it's not so much that I stay awake, it's that I won't fall asleep and start snoring and embarrassing her.
I know that well. When you start having the very late evening coffees to go to a show or go to a movie.
Yeah. Well, we went to a one-man show off Broadway. This was put on by Michael Shannon, who's a famous actor, movie actor. And he's doing this one-man play. And we sat down, and literally within minutes I was out. And we hadn't even gone to dinner beforehand. It's like I didn't even have the excuse of saying, I had a glass of wine or anything like that. And she said I was snoring so loudly. And apparently I was so sound asleep. She was physically shaking me to get me to wake up, and I wasn't waking up initially. And apparently Michael Shannon was looking at me going, what the hell is this guy doing? So anyway,
that's great.
Let's talk about coffee. So tell us about Coffee Sender, because this is really a unique idea for a company. And what was the impetus to start it?
Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, I was with a different startup, and a buddy of mine was there with me. And we were trying to figure out a unique way to reach out to prospects. And we had kind of this I would say, great idea. Like, let's walk into Starbucks, let's buy a bunch of gift cards, and let's mail them out to people trying to generate meetings. So we'd write these Hail Mary notes to people saying, hey, would love to tell you about my product and why it's a fit for you. We'd attach a gift card saying, grab coffee on me and give me a ring at this number. And it worked pretty well. Like, we sent probably, hundreds of them. And
no, you're sending actual physical letters.
Physical gift cards. Like, that was how we originally started at that company. And then what ended up happening was actually our VP of sales of that past company was, this is great, guys. Like, I'm glad you're generating meetings, but I have no clue where these are going. And like, you putting these huge expense reports through for coffee gift cards. Are you just buying yourself coffee?
No,
not at all.
Right.
Of course not. So he was like, what if you plug this into Salesforce and plug this into the different, the apps we're already using, and then we can actually measure and we can actually figure out if this actually works or not. So we kind of took that idea and the light bulb kind of went off, and we left that company and went and built it. We first hired a couple guys to work with, and we ended up building the plugin to Salesforce and making it all automated. And then we turned around and we sold it back to the original company, and now they use it. They're one of our longtime customers. But I mean, that was kind of where the original idea came from. So today we do a very similar act of sending that physical gift card, only everything's digital. And we plug into just about every marketing automation system and soon to be every sales system to make it really easy to incorporate gifting into your sales process and your kind of relationship building process with that prospect or customer.
And it's based around the idea is that you're sending someone a cup of coffee.
It's that simple. Yeah, I mean, like, it's amazing how, with that prospect that maybe isn't moving, or you're trying to, even before a first phone call, we're just sending something over saying, hey, confirming our meeting at 2, here's a coffee on me, chat with you then, how that changes the entire conversation with that individual.
So why do you think it does? And we're talking about a digital Starbucks gift card.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of it comes down to people don't like being sold to, and they want you to really solve the issues that they have. And that's why they're taking the time for a demo or walkthrough. So by sending someone a coffee, you're almost humanizing yourself. You're making yourself human. Hey, we'd love to buy a cup of coffee before we start this meeting. I mean, like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, I was sort of chuckling, and you said almost humanizing. So, yeah.
Almost humanizing. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, as I send you my mail merge, I'm almost humanized.
Almost close to being human. I'm half robot.
Half robot.
Yeah.
And so, mechanically, the way it works is you can initiate as an individual basis. You could do it through a mail merge, right? You can do it on sort of a mass basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as the easiest way that most folks use it in sales is we have a button that says Send Starbucks that lives on your contact and lead page in Salesforce. Mm-hmm. It also lives in LinkedIn and also lives in your Gmail. So you can just go in and say you're trying to, before a conversation, you can press that button and build a template and send that email out with a coffee attached to it. And then we measure everything on the back end. So we want to make sure it was opened. We want to make sure, when that happened, you're notified, so you can actually track and see if it works or not.
And do you get data as to whether they actually have been redeemed?
Not yet. We're working on that. So that's sort of version 2 for us, is like, where did these folks go, and when did they actually use it or not? We can track when they open it. We can track when they actually click and see the barcode. Mm-hmm. But that's it right now. Our immediate change we're adding more than just coffee. We're adding the ability to send things like lunch for lunch and learns. We're adding the ability to send things like wine and tickets. So there'll be lots of things that you can send rather than just coffee to kind of build that relationship. We're calling it account-based gifting.
Account-based gifting.
Yeah.
The guys that engage you, I like that.
Right?
Account-based everything. Account-based gifting. Very cool.
Yeah, we kind of got the idea. So like, we're working with a lot with those engage you guys. We think what they're doing is really cool. So we're like, let's incorporate gifting into this.
So that sort of brings an interesting point, though. Is the thing about coffee is the price point is sort of, I won't say trivial, but kind of trivial, right, in the grand scheme of things. So it sort of changes the dynamic a little bit, though, if you start gifting things a little more expensive.
It does. I would say it goes on beyond just sales. You kind of get into the idea of like, the upselling internally, or you have a customer who's been there for a long time, more towards the customer success type journey of like, hey, like, this person gave you a great referral and the deal closed. So maybe you can send them. Yeah, essentially.
Yeah. Now I could see on the front end that some companies actually, I know, have policies about not accepting anything.
Yeah, no, that's very true, which is why the coffee's worked out really nicely, because essentially it's only $5, and so we'll always have the ability to do that. And because it's $5, it's very minimal, and we usually are right under the radar with most things that you can send to companies that have kind of policies there.
Right.
Because essentially you're just buying them a cup of coffee they can use. One of the things we're asked for all the time is, right now we have Starbucks. The plan is to add additional coffee shops like Dunkin' Donuts. So for those folks in Boston,
right?
Every time we chat with them, we're like, can you do this Dunkin' Donuts? Not yet. We're working on it to be able to have that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the regional differences, obviously, that's important to play in. But so the system is free to use. You just pay for the coffee.
Exactly. Yeah. So we are paid by Starbucks to and by our partners to basically be in business, to keep the lights on, if you will. So the system, the platform, our integrations is all free to use. The only thing we charge for are the $5 gift cards.
Huh. So how does somebody budget for this?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and we've seen a couple ways companies have really budgeted for this. The primary way is they'll come in and they'll do what we like to call programs or campaigns. They'll say, hey, we want to roll this out to our sales team. I'll say that's 20 or 50 people, and we want to give everybody accounts. Of course, those are free to use, and then there's an admin on that account, sort of like a Salesforce account. So what they'll usually do is they'll start with anywhere from 10 to 20 coffees per sales rep, and we'll roll it out to the whole team with doing an email campaign, maybe doing a couple of demos of how it works, maybe brainstorming ideas of how they can incorporate coffee into their actual sales process. And the admin will have control over how many coffees each person can send per month. So that way no one goes too crazy and sends everybody a cup of coffee that they're on the phone with that day. So they'll usually run a program or a campaign for about anywhere from 2 to 3 months, and we'll look at the results at the end of that program and usually roll it into another one from there. So it's almost like having extended pilots and having multiple pilots across the sales org as to kind of saying where the best fit is for that certain industry or that certain company. In terms of budgeting, we like to take a look at, depending on the size of the company, is to really think about having 10 to 20 coffees per individual who's using the service per month is really the best way to budget for it.
Okay. Well, in a minute, we'll talk about sort of scenarios about when it should be used and what's the best case and the best practices for using it. But so the other thing though that you do is that with the integration through Salesforce is then now you're sort of making recommendations or suggestions as to who should get a cup of coffee.
So the send Starbucks button lives on every single page, every single contact and lead page, so you can actually send that to anybody. And then if you press that, it's actually going to write an activity like you sent that person a coffee, so you can build reports that way. And then the last iteration we have in Salesforce is something we like to call suggested recipients. Mm-hmm. So you can actually take a look and see like, hey, who haven't I talked to in 2 months? And maybe that was a qualified lead. Maybe that's someone I want to try to get in front of and send them a coffee. Or who maybe this is a perfect ranking fit for us, and I need to send that person a copy. So we have that as well. That lives in the platform where we can actually suggest people that you should send a coffee to.
So you can set the rule.
You can set the rule, exactly.
Okay, all right. Well, that's kind of cool then.
Yeah.
So what other integrations then besides, talk about Gmail, Salesforce, what other integrations, other platforms do you work with?
Yeah, so Gmail, Salesforce, LinkedIn. On the marketing side, we work with Marketo, we work with HubSpot, we work with Microsoft Dynamics, we work with Slack. So our Slack integration we just rolled out. That's for a lot of internal use cases. So say a sales engineer really helped you on a phone call and you want to thank them with a coffee. Mm-hmm. We actually own the command coffee in Slack, so you can send them a coffee that way. They can go and grab at Starbucks.
Okay.
Kind of a nice internal use case. The other integration we have is Eloqua, which we just built, mm-hmm. and Zendesk is our last one that we just had.
So how's Zendesk using it then?
A lot for support issues. So if something has gone array and they have a ticket that maybe they're trying to fix, support folks will use it for, hey, go grab a coffee on me as we try to figure out how we can fix your problem.
Got it. Well, let's go into some of the examples, excuse me, of that. So one example that you talk about is sort of reconnecting, refreshing connections or reconnecting with customers that have sort of gone silent for a while. Sounds like a good idea, a good way to sort of break through the noise. So what do you typically have people use in terms of like a subject line on email when they're sending it?
Yeah, so there's really two ways that you can use the system. If you use the Coffee Center platform itself, and you want us to send the coffee, the subject line will always be the same. It'll say like Braydan from Coffee Center sent you a coffee, enjoy, or Joe from ABC Company sent you a coffee, enjoy it. The reason we did that was it's a third party, so our open rate is a lot higher. The other way you can use it is you actually can ask us for a link that you want to insert into an email that you're already using. Of course, that's a possibility if you want to do it that way. We see lower open rates there because usually folks are using those in like an already existing chain and they're just adding to it to try to re-engage. So we suggest kind of using the third party one since it gets better open rates.
Using your platform for that.
Yeah, and then we can track it a little better as well as like when it actually gets opened.
Okay, so when somebody has a button on Gmail and they click the button, then it's actually going to your platform, not sending the mail through Gmail then.
Yeah, it's actually going through us.
Got it. Okay.
It's actually a pretty sweet little hack that we did in the world of sales hacks. It's a Chrome widget that actually adds that button into Gmail.
Okay. All right. So
topic for another conversation.
Yeah. So okay. Customer reconnect programs. You talk about customer nurture or sales prospect nurture.
Yeah.
I think standing out, getting the attention of the prospect. I mean, you talked about you get sort of the increased open rates when it comes through you as opposed to coming through the Gmail. So that's one thing that's always the challenge, right? You could be sending a coffee, but what do you actually? So that's I guess the question is, what sort of click rates do you see or open rates do you see?
We see about 75% when we send it out, which is huge for when we send the actual system out or the actual emails out. I think one of the biggest things that we've noticed with this platform is, especially in sales, is it works really well if used properly. And I think that goes across the board, whether it's coffee or whether it's a case study. I don't think it really matters. Like you have to surround the object or the thing with really good content. Like when we first rolled this out, we had folks that were using it for like they sent an email to the CEO of a big Fortune 500 company saying, "Hey, like here's a coffee on me. Let me pitch you what I'm doing." And that doesn't work. I mean,
right.
You could send them a Samsung television, like they're not going to get back to you. Like you have to be able to add some value. So the most successful campaigns that we see with using Coffee Center is they have an email that goes out before saying, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. My value prop. Would love to buy you your first or 10th cup of coffee tomorrow, and tell you how I think we can fit in." If they respond to that, great. Then send the coffee over. Just confirming that meeting is the best way to do it. Folks have a lot of success using this at conferences.
Wait, so in the first one you don't include the link. What you're saying is you don't include the link for the coffee.
Not right away. Like it's usually on the confirmation, but promising that you're sending something over is a really nice touch we've seen on sales.
Huh. Just sort of think about that for a second. So what's the actual wording that you use so that they know that they're going to be getting a gift card for a cup of coffee?
Yeah. We usually say would love to have a meeting with you. I'll send you a virtual coffee once you give me a time that works.
Okay. Well, that's simple. That's a little reciprocity.
Yeah, right. And so and then once you send it over, it even if they don't respond, like it's a nice kind of touch to just try to say, "Hey, I know I promised you a cup of coffee. Here's that coffee. Like, let me know if you can chat next week." We have folks who do that as well. But the idea of promising this cup of this coffee that you're talking about works really well with trying to connect with folks and not trying to pitch them, but trying to just buy a little bit of their time with "Hey, everyone drinks coffee. Let me buy you your first cup tomorrow and get 15 minutes.
Okay. So what if you're trying to get them to take an action that isn't actually talking to you? Like registering for a webinar or something.
Yeah. So if it's one of those use cases, like say you're running a webinar through Marketo, say I totally didn't mention SurveyMonkey. That's a big plugin of ours as people use this in surveys.
Okay.
So say you're trying to get them to fill out a survey.
Right.
We have automation rules on the back end. So if someone registers for a survey, we usually send or completes a survey. We just send a coffee over right after saying, "Hey, thanks so much for your feedback. Here's your coffee. Enjoy." Folks will use this for kind of partner programs as well. So if you put in like a referral, it's just all automated within Salesforce. So we watch for certain triggers. So if someone adds a new lead or if someone registers for a webinar, a copy goes out automatically to that person, thanking them for signing up.
Interesting. Yeah, you talked before about the issue resolution program that Zendesk was using, but it's a great way to sort of deflect the tension that's inevitably there when a customer has a problem.
It is. I mean, if anything, I think from a very high level, it buys you a little bit of time to actually
Sure.
figure out like, hey, what is the issue, and from there, then you are sort of in the good graces for a little bit as you try to figure out how you can solve their issue, or if there was a bug that something took place, a small bug, not something huge, then you can at least spend $5 to make sure that they're a happy customer.
Yeah, I think if you send a coffee and you're not actually working to fix the problem, the customer's going to see through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't want a frappuccino, but thank
Yeah.
you very much for sending it over. I'd just like to be able to use the service that I paid for.
Right, but if they actually know that you're working on it, then yeah, I think sending the coffee makes a good sense.
Yeah, I mean, like the idea of sending a coffee over or sending whatever over, I think goes back a long ways. I think people have always incorporated gifting into business, and we're essentially just taking that and making it quicker and making it a little more trackable, because people have always sent gift cards or sent swag or sent all kinds of things. But our thought is like, why isn't any of this measured? And so that's what we're trying to do with Copy Center.
Yeah, well, I think that there's another aspect though too, which is that it used to be that more of sales took place in person than it does today.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that was fairly common is you'd take a prospect out for a coffee. And to me, that's, in addition to what you had said, is this is sort of another way to sort of do that virtually, even though you're not there. But it is the sort of personal touch. It is a little bit of a human element that oftentimes is sort of sadly lacking from.
Like humanization.
Yeah, as we said, almost human.
Almost human.
Almost human. But I mean, if you're sending out individually on a personal basis, then hopefully that shines through in what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think you also stand out as you incorporate gifting into your actual prospecting, especially in sales. I mean, like folks get emails all day long and calls as to why they have to talk to you and why your service is going to change something. But if you're reaching out with something a little different, and we mentioned Engagio earlier, like the account-based side and building a relationship side is this. We really truly believe like that's where all of sales is moving towards. Like the idea of like just blanketing and doing just spray and pray doesn't really work.
Well, yeah, it's less effective than it could be, right? Than the alternative could be, for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, so I started thinking about in terms of a process. Then is you're sort of orienting it a little bit towards the top of the funnel, but I think you almost, I was thinking this through, is you sort of have to think about when is the right time to use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it could just be as simple as, they've gone quiet for a couple weeks, excuse me, and you're wondering what's happening. This, again, sort of treading on the principle of reciprocity, you give them something, you increase the odds you're going to get something in return, especially if they've gone quiet.
Yeah, and I think we've seen some really cool use cases with using this. So kind of top of funnel, great use case. Once that meeting is set on the calendar, we've seen folks use it for almost like a pre-survey before the actual meeting. Like, hey, would love to have you answer these questions before we talk, so that way I can make sure that I spend the half an hour we have or the hour we have on the phone next week basically catered to you, and here's a coffee for you for taking the time to answer these questions, almost like a pre-survey. So like that's almost like pre-closed deal. And then in success, with that transition from sales to success is always a big one as well. Mm-hmm. And then all the way down to support. So we like to say anything on the client facing side, you can incorporate gifting. I think for us is like my background is sales, so the first area we've targeted has been sales, since we tend to understand that the most here or the best here. So that's kind of been the first iteration for us.
Well, I think there's a danger of it being overused, though, too, right? I mean, it seems like I don't know. You tell me what your customers are finding. It seems like really you use it once with a prospect throughout an individual, and you could have multiple people, obviously, on the decision-making team. But with one individual who's involved in the process, you sort of get one shot at it throughout their buying process.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, which is kind of why we've thought about incorporating other gifting ideas beyond just coffee, like things like lunch, because there's different things that you want to send to that person. We normally see it used about 2 times with a prospect in sales. So before the actual first conversation, and then towards the end of the contract process, we'll see it used again with a, hey, like, here's the contract and here's a cup of coffee with the contract. So as you're reading through the T's and C's, you can, have coffee on me. So that's a typical process that we'll see on the sales side. And then we'll see it used again down the road on the support side. But that's about most of it for at least our use cases so far.
Yeah, it seems like there's a potential danger. Some with the gifting is that you don't want to train the customers
to
expect something in return for actually, giving you information.
Yep.
Or, participating in their buying process.
No, that's an excellent point. And I think with incorporating other things and giving that might help, but I think that's one of the major reasons why we incorporated the limits for the admin to, like, hey, you can't send everybody a coffee and just kind of spray and pray these coffees out and hope somebody responds to you. Like, building content and strategy and programs around it, we believe will reduce the idea of it being overused.
Yeah. So what have your clients been able to see so far relative to, okay, we're making this investment, maybe we're getting greater conversion rates, early stages into being sales qualified leads or whatever, but have they been able to track it through to actual impact on outcomes, orders?
Yeah, so one of the biggest use cases is we have a couple companies who have used us since we began, and for them, what we really valued was how many demos they were able to generate and how many people they were able to get in front of. So for sales generation, for example, they saw their numbers go from usually 5 demos a week to about 10, which was great. And then we also tracked like how fast we could get the process moving. So those deals that stalled out, the ones that like, hey, I'm taking this to my boss, and then I'll give you a call next week to tell you if it's moving forward or not. We saw the response rate there increase almost by double, which they were able to actually get rid of deals that weren't going to be pushed through, or to kind of accelerate those deals through the process. So those are the 2 things that we track. We haven't yet tracked like closed deals that are direct result to coffee, since most deals have like 20, 30 different touch points. So you might have sent them a coffee at the beginning, but can you actually say that was what closed that deal? So we're not sure yet how to track that. That's definitely a moving piece for us.
Yeah, what you're saying though is your clients are justifying the ROI based on conversion rates at earlier stages of the sales process.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, if you're looking at sales as sort of a numbers game, then those numbers are relevant as well. Interesting. Yeah, it's a fascinating idea. I mean, I'm surprised that someone hadn't jumped on it before, quite frankly.
Yeah, we like it. It's been kind of a fun year to see it grow out and to kind of see the different use cases. I think one of the greatest success stories that we always like to tell about is we worked with Palo Alto Networks, and they said to us, hey, we want to roll this out to our sales team, and then we want to give them the ability to use this as they see fit, so to be creative. Mm-hmm. And we did this really cool brainstorming session as to like how each of the sales reps were going to use it, and it was fun to see the results and to see the emails that they came up with and to see kind of the great success stories they had. I think that was one of the most fun rollouts we had. Give
us an example of some of the great ideas they came up with on how to use it. That might have been different.
So some of the folks, like one of the subject lines was hot coffee plus cold email equals warm introduction. And
that's a good one. I love that.
Yeah, like they would attach a coffee into the actual email that they would send, so they'd use a link. Another way was a rep got really into using our links and using them with LinkedIn. So they would actually send a request to somebody, and include a coffee in that request, saying, "Hey, would love to buy you your first cup of coffee tomorrow. Like here's an actual link for it. Like give me a call on this number." So that was a pretty cool use case that we saw. Then someone did the same use case in Twitter, trying to get them to respond via Twitter as well, kind of direct messaging people with coffee links. So folks are pretty creative as to how they were trying to use these actual. And then the last one was someone did like surveys before calls to basically help qualify the actual leads that their BDRs are giving them. And that was pretty cool to see as well, because they actually got really good results from people being like, yeah, I'd love to give you information so you don't waste my time on the phone, and thanks for the coffee before the call.
Very cool. All right. Well, Braydan, this is the last segment of the show. And in this, I ask some standard questions to all my guests. And the first one's a hypothetical scenario, and of which you get to be the star. And in this hypothetical scenario, you, Braydan, have just been hired as VP of sales by a company whose sales have plateaued out. They've stalled, need to hit the reset button, do a turnaround. So what 2 things could you do your first week on the job that would have the biggest impact?
So took over as VP of sales, and sales have stalled in that company. So I think the first one is I am a true believer in data. So I would want to run some very large reports in Salesforce and figure out who has bought our service and who has stuck with us for more than a year, and what those reasons are, and what verticals and industries those companies are in, because that's probably where we want to focus on to kind of get sales increased again. So that'd be number 1.
Okay.
Number 2, I would want to figure out, like, so if sales have plateaued, is the reason maybe our sales pitch is just mute? Maybe the reps have kind of lost their mojo with how they sell it. So I'd want to dive into actual demos and kind of how they're running their demo process, and probably sit down with the reps and each one and kind of see them and have them walk me through their demo that they currently have, how they're selling it, what's their value prop. Maybe that needs a little work, kind of what's where they see the product market fit, and kind of work with my front line folks a little bit and figure out, kind of what they're selling, how they're selling it, and how we can improve upon that. Because if they're getting phone calls in this scenario, great. Maybe they're just not pitching it correctly.
Okay. Good answer. All right. So now I've got some rapid fire questions. You can be one-word answers or elaborate as you wish. So when you, Braydan, are out selling coffee center services, what's your most powerful sales attribute?
Relationship building.
Okay. Who's your sales role model?
That's a really good one. There's a couple of them. I'm trying not to think of like managers that I've had, but actually people that I've always liked to follow in sales and how they've done sales. I really like the way. It's a good question.
If you can't think of anybody, the default is me.
Yeah, default. Absolutely. Let's go with that 100%. No, I like the way that Elon Musk pitches and like incorporates marketing in his sales. And like lately, I think my latest one that I was really impressed with was the way Evan Spiegel and Snapchat rolled out their Spectacles campaign. I thought that was brilliant. And like, it's not really sales; it's more it's marketing and sales kind of go hand in hand.
Sure.
But whoever designed that campaign they even had me kind of captivated by like, where's this next machine going to be? That has these glasses that come out. Like that whole campaign was just absolutely brilliant how they did it. So like those are 2 people that I definitely watch a lot with, kind of what they're up to and what they're doing.
Okay. All right. So what's the one book every salesperson should read?
I would say Hooked is a really good one. As to why folks get, and the author is escaping me right now. Had it like Good to Great in Sales is another great one. And then I think probably the last one is Predictive Revenue. I think like that one everyone has to read by Aaron. I think
Predictive Revenue, right?
Yeah, I think like it granted was written in the past, when Salesforce was scaling really rapidly, but I think it has some really great ideas as to how you can incorporate and grow a sales team.
Okay. Yeah, and he had a co-author on that, I think, as well, Mary Lou Tyler. So, okay. Last question for you then. What music's on your playlist right now?
I am a huge fan of techno type music. So I really like Flume. I also really like old school rap. So which people can find me listening to probably as the day gets late. I like P Diddy and Mace and all those guys and
Run DMC.
Run DMC. I like all that.
All right. Will Smith, DJ Jazzy Jeff,
Notorious B.I.G.
Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, all that. Okay, good stuff. Yeah.
Gets you going.
Get you going. Okay. All right, well, Braydan, thank you for joining me. So tell folks how they can find out more about Coffee Center and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, so please visit us at coffeecenter.com. And, of course, send us an email. My email is Braydan, Braydan, at coffeecenterapp.com. Or if you can't remember that, hello at Coffee Center app also works. And if you ever want to dive in, take a look, and maybe schedule a quick walkthrough, coffee, of course, is on us. And hope to chat with you soon.
Yeah, first one's free. All right, thanks again for joining us. And friends, thank you for spending the time with us today. Remember to make it a habit to deliberately learn something new every day to help you accelerate your success. And an easy way to do that is join my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Braydan Young, who shared his expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. And if you enjoy Accelerate and the value we're delivering, then please take a quick minute right now to leave your feedback about this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or where else you listen. It'd be very much appreciated. So thanks again for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.